Hi guys, That Song Review Guy here, and on this episode of Charts of the Past, we look back at the 10 biggest selling singles on the 30th of March 1968. Kicking things off at number 10 is If I Were a Carpenter by the Four Tops. Starting things off is one of Motown's legendary groups that defined the sound that was Motown. Along with a career spanning 63 years and the original lineup remaining unchanged from their inception in 1953 through to 1997, 27 top 40 singles with 11 cracking the top 10 and 1 going to the top spot, 9 albums under their Motown label reaching top 40 status and have a handful of awards to their name, including the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Award in 1990, Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award in 2009, and the R&B Music Hall of Fame induction in 2013, along with many others. Complete with bright production, background harmonists, and instrumentation that consists of percussion, strings, a bass guitar that's just audible, and tinkling keyboard piece, the song consists of the protagonist asking his love interest that if he were a worker of any number of different trades, would this woman marry him? Personally, I find the instrumentation nice and definitely has some charm to it, and the vocals are solid, but as a song on its own, it doesn't really stir up much emotion in me. It's fine for what it is, but it's not exactly one of the go-to tracks in terms of the Motown genre. At number 9 is Juniper by Donovan. Full name Donovan Phillips Leach, this Glaswegian-born singer-songwriter musician with a 50-year plus career, often dubbed as the poor man's Bob Dylan, dabbled in the genres of folk, pop and psychedelia music, which saw him muster 29 studio albums, 6 of which charted in the UK top 40, had 11 charting singles, all but 1 landing in the top 30, with 7 ending up in the top 10. His achievements have been recognised by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame after being inducted in 2012 and the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2014. And I'm just gonna say it here, I hate this song. Listening through this track is simply insufferable. What with the vocal delivery, which leaves me bored and just sucks the life out of me, not to mention the emphasis on the J on the title track is so skin crawling, and the lyrics themselves are full of holes. Although I'll admit the instrumentation is kind of enjoyable, there's too much in this song that bugs the hell out of me. Serenading this lady, Donovan asks a bunch of rhetorical questions before answering them himself and makes some of the lines completely unnecessary. Quotes that she's apparently sitting still and then asks if she's asleep, okay. Asks if she's breathing, well, I bloody well hope so, and asks if she's dreaming. Well, if she's not sleeping, then she's clearly not dreaming. On the surface, it's harmless, but it's a song that I have a severe aversion to. Boring, lacking personality, and a complete snooze fest. At number 8 is Congratulations by Cliff Richard. Making his second outing on Charts of the Past, Cliff is back with this track, the song that represented the UK in the 1968 Eurovision Song Contest, in which he was royally robbed, as was everyone else if you're familiar with the winner. Putting that to one side, the song in a nutshell is Cliff calling upon celebrations, jubilations and congratulations on the announcement that he has finally learned that the woman that he's been desperate to get one inside has confessed to feeling the same way. Upbeat, bright, jubilant and just all round fun, it's a great track with next to nothing wrong with it at all. The sharp string opening which disappears before returning in the final minute of the track, along with the key change, timpani drums, rhythmic electric guitar in the verses, deep bass riff and hi-hats along with a female background vocalist, everything combines to result in a practically perfect pop song. Kept short, kept simple and kept concise, it's an example of a simple, uncomplicated song done well. At number 7 is Rosie by Don Partridge. Born Donald Eric Partridge in Bournemouth 1941, passing away in September 2010, had a career of over 40 years which saw very little success. Starting off as a street busker, forming his own one-man band before going on to only have 3 top 40 singles, 4 studio albums between the 39-year period, 2 albums under the Accolade, an acoustic folk jazz group he formed with fellow musician and singer Gordon Giltrap, before returning back to his street performing roots after recording his second album in 1974. Instrumentally, the song consists of Partridge playing all of the instruments, all of the one-man band staples, guitar, bass drum, harmonica and kazoo, and lyrically the song is dedicated to this woman he's infatuated with, whose name, this will shock you, is called Rosie. It's your bog standard ode to a female who's either dead or isn't by the protagonist's side, and all he has to do is look up and imagine her face in the sky. I know, it's enough to make you vomit, right? Honestly though, it's harmless enough and pretty run of the mill. Not great, but hardly anything terrible. At number 6 is What a Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong. The legendary Louisianan-born singer, trumpet and cornet player, active from 1914 through to his death in 1971, Louis Armstrong released a total of 18 singles, with this being his one and only #1 hit single. Recorded a total of 27 LPs and EPs, won male vocal performance at the Grammys in 1964 and the Lifetime Achievement Award in 1972, has had 11 tracks inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame, and has been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1990, the Louisiana Music Hall of Fame in 2007, and was included on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 1960, along with a myriad of other awards. This track is undoubtedly the one that everyone goes to whenever they think of Louis Armstrong. And really, are you surprised? The song is absolutely timeless. Armstrong's gruff yet relaxing delivery, the beautiful string arrangement with soft percussion, the charming lyrics that have such a delicate nature to them. It's a song that not only exemplifies simple songwriting that's truly incredible and at its best, but it's one of the greatest songs ever written. Period. At number 5 is Dave D, Dozy, Beaky, Mick and Tich with The Legend of Xanadu. Originally consisting of members David John Harmon, Trevor Leonard Ward Davies, John Diamond, Michael Wilson and Ian Frederick Stephen Amay, the 5-piece act have a career spanning over 50 years, with alternating members throughout this time period after 3 of the 5 original members passed away. The group have released 7 studio albums, only the first 2 making any sort of headway on the albums charts, have scored 10 top 20 singles, with this being their one and only #1 hit. Backed by a Spanish style instrumentation along with the odd sound effect, including laser shots and whip cracking, the lyrics read like the aftermath of a confrontation between 2 people to win the affection of a woman. Overall, it's a decent track. The instrumentation is pretty decent, even if I do feel that the use of the sound effects are slightly overused, but vocally, the delivery is solid. In a nutshell, there's nothing overtly awful about the track. Definitely earns a passing grade from me. At number 4 is Cinderella Rockefella by Esther and Abby Ofarim. This former husband and wife duo, consisting of British Palestinian-born Esther Zaid and Abraham Reichstadt, came into fruition in 1966. Esther initially gained notoriety at the 1963 Eurovision Song Contest, finishing 2nd, whilst Abraham started off as a dancer before the two married in 1960 and began performing with one another 6 years later. Their first hit, Morning of My Life, peaked at number 13, and a year later, the two scored their first and only top 5 hit single in the UK with this track. Vocally, the delivery is pretty unbearable, I'm just going to be honest. Abby's vocals are rather one-dimensional, and Esther's vocals are constantly shrill and have the shaking effect that comes off as both annoying and headache-inducing. Instrumentally, it wouldn't sound out of place in the 50s, pretty much an orchestral piece, and lyrically, it's highly repetitive, the kind of song where it sounds like it consists of about 7 separate words where both complement one another on liking each other's facial features. This was a #1 song for 3 weeks. So, yeah, it's crap. Moving on. At number 3 is Sitting on the Dock of the Bay by Otis Redding. Born Otis Ray Redding Jr. in September 1941, the man is considered to be one of America's greatest singers in popular music and soul music. Amazing considering that the man died just aged 26, perishing in a plane accident in December 1967. Despite such a short life, the man recorded 10 studio albums, 4 of which were posthumous releases and 8 of which reached the top 40, with 1 going to #1, 11 top 40 singles, 4 reaching the top 20, and has had a handful of accolades to his name, including being inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1989, the Georgia Hall of Fame in 1988, and received the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award in 1999. With melancholic lyrics about a down-on-his-luck man racked by loneliness who seems resigned to having nothing good come his way, the vocals are filled with a sense of sadness and pessimism. The combination of soft drums, brass section, electric guitar riff, bass guitar, overlapping waves and whistling at the end of the song to take us out, much like What a Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong, the track is timeless and one of the greatest songs of all time. How this never reached #1 in the UK, I'll never know. And number 2 is Delilah by Tom Jones. With a career that spans over 5 decades, Tom Jones cements himself as Wales's most successful male vocalist alive today. Knighted in 2006 for his services to music, and with a number of Grammy nominations, including 1 Grammy Award for Best New Artist Artist in 1966, an MTV award, and was awarded a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 1989, along with 2 Brit Awards in 2000 and 2003. The man has released 40 studio albums, half of which charting in the top 40, has scored 37 top 40 singles with 2 #1 hits, and has sold over 100 million records worldwide. A highly controversial song for its time, the song follows the story of our protagonist who has caught his lady love doing the dirty on him, and once her lover drives off, Jones goes over to her place and ends up killing Delilah in the process. Jones is notorious for having so many brilliant tracks under his belt. I'm not so certain as to whether or not this is his best song he's ever released. I could probably name about 5, maybe 10 that I personally prefer, but it's still a fantastic track nonetheless. Dark, but in a weirdly charming and enjoyable fashion, and with a fantastic instrumental to boot. It's pretty much perfect. Again, 0 complaints. And the song that was #1 back on the 30th of March 1968 was Lady Madonna by the Beatles. You all know who the Beatles are. I know who the Beatles are. This group really doesn't need any sort of introduction, but I'm going to give them one anyway. Known around the world as one of the world's most popular and successful groups, the Beatles pretty much ruled the 60s, and even after their demise, they are still recognised as one of the biggest influences in music, period. The best-selling music artists in the US, shifting almost 180 million units. They have the most #1 albums and sold more singles in the UK than any other artist living or dead, 10 Grammys, 1 Academy Award, 15 Ivor Novello Awards, and have sold over 600 million records worldwide. As a group and individualistically, have been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. If I were to carry on, I'd be here all day, so let's concentrate on the song. Complete with piano, ascending and descending bass line, rhythmic guitar, brass section and drums, this jaunty little number reads out the story of a working class woman going through an ordinary working week, with the exception of Saturday, describing her as having many children and regularly finds herself struggling to make ends meet and is constantly being overworked. Not being a big fan of the Beatles, I can't say that I have any particular fondness of the track, but it's not bad and I do enjoy the instrumentation, particularly the little solo part in the middle of the track where the saxophones take centre stage. But overall, it's one of those Beatles songs that sort of sits in the middle of the alright category. Not one of their more iconic tracks, but I can definitely recall some that are way worse than this track. And there you go, those were the 10 biggest selling tracks on March the 30th, 1968. What do you guys think of these songs? Do you agree with my opinions, disagree with them? Do you like the songs? Do you hate the songs? However you feel, leave your opinions in the comment section below. As I always say, I welcome all comments, good or bad. And until next time, I'm That Song Review Guy, and take care.